Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is Mary Lurson. I'm the Executive Director of the NAMM Foundation, and welcome to our webinar on our Gen Next webinar on career prospects and concerns. It's really great to have you with us. For those of you who are joining us on our fall webinar series, we always have to start with a little bit of housekeeping, and soon those of you who are veterans of our webinar series will start to be able to recite this with me. As you know, we operate all our events under an FTC antitrust reality. We take this very seriously. It's important to us at NAMM concerning competitive prices and markets. And if you have concerns or interest in this, we have a lot of detailed fine print information available at namm.org. Thank you for attention to that. Also, we do not offer professional development credits uh, for our webinar series, though we certainly hope they're enriching and important to you, and we're really grateful for your participation. So we have a really exciting format today, and I'm so delighted to have you all with us. The format is a conversation first with college music students and former graduate of music schools, led by a moderator, Alex, who is a former graduate of a school of music and also working professionally in the field. So that's going to be a very interesting experience. That's Alex Alberti, who we'll meet shortly, who will be leading a panel of 8 students, 8 current and former students in our nation's music school. So we're really looking forward to that. And then we're going to bring together 4 college music faculty to ask a couple of questions formally, and then we're going to ask our students, our student panelists, to ask them questions and also raise some concerns about their training and their realities. We like to call this the stump the professor moment of the event. And we'll also be watching the chat in case there's other questions coming up from students. And then we'll do a wrap up with both students and faculty to just explore some perspectives and concerns. And what I really believe by the time we all end in an hour, we're going to come away with a deeper commitment and an understanding of the remarkable talent and dedication that is leading the field of music today, and also the remarkable talent and commitment and dedication and inspiration that is coming from our students as we go forward in time. So I'm going to turn it over to ask Alex to join me. I'm going to ask him a kind of an opening question. Alex, it's so great to share a moderator. I just get to sit back and listen. And I'm actually so excited about that. Though
Excellent.
I will help make sure you stick to time and all
Thank
that.
you.
So Alex, tell us a little bit about your experience, where you studied, your career journey, and what you're doing now, and what connects you to this program at NAMM.
Thank you so much, Mary. Yeah. So I have a exciting and fun and complex past in the music world. So I currently, right now, I'm a master's student in music education and nonprofit management at UNC Greensboro in North Carolina. And before that point, I also studied at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, where I got my bachelor's degree in music education. After that point, I taught I'm still teaching for 8 years at a charter arts high school in Raleigh. And meanwhile, with all of this, I'm also doing a lot of interning. So I've been really passionate about getting involved in music nonprofits and the music education world. So I'm a part of the College Music Society, and I'm interning with them, currently doing social media marketing and internships. And then that connected me with NAMM and the Gen Next program. And so I got to be a NAMM intern this year at the NAMM show, which was absolutely mind-blowing and incredible. And now that's led me to continue my internship experience here in the virtual world. So it's really been very exciting getting to kind of live in 2 worlds, living in the professional realm as a teacher and intern, and then working in the student realm, getting my master's degree, which I'll finish up in December.
Wonderful, Alex. So I'm going to turn the next about 20, 25 minutes over to you. Go to it.
Excellent. Well, cool. I invite all of our student panelists to go ahead and turn on their cameras. And we're going to quickly go around and introduce ourselves. So We're going to start with our currently enrolled students. And as you come on, if you want to follow the order here on the screen, I would love for you to talk a little bit about your name, where you currently are in school, and what you're studying. So let's start with Ada Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ada Elizabeth Ponder, and I'm a first semester at Berklee College of Music. So I'm in my undergraduate first semester year. And my major, currently, we're all undeclared we come in as, but I plan to pursue music therapy, I think in third semester. And my reason for studying music is music as a career, there's no limits. And so I just wanted a career that I can control myself and that I can just pursue a lot of things and there's no right or wrong to like the training and the preparation you have as a music person.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. How about Angela?
Good morning, everyone. I am a recent graduate from Cal Poly Pomona. I graduated in May of this year. I earned my bachelor's degree in music with an emphasis in music industry studies. And I decided to major in music because I'm a former foster youth, and growing up in the foster care system, I always used music as a way of like inspiration and to cope with like my living circumstances. And when I was in high school, I had a really amazing high school band director that was not only an amazing like musician, but an amazing person. And I told myself that I wanted to positively impact people through music the same way my high school band director used music to positively impact my life.
That's wonderful. I'm sure they would love to hear that story from you as well. Let's hear from Jane.
Hi, my name is Jane Colsh. I'm a current graduate student at Eastman School of Music in their music leadership program. I decided to pursue music both in undergrad and in grad school, just because at the end of my time in undergrad, I was moving away from strictly performance and starting to ask questions about how can I be involved as how can I be involved in innovative performance and in music as social change. And I really wanted to get involved in nonprofit organization work after graduate school.
Excellent. Good choice there. Cool. So let's now hear from Justine.
Hi, I'm Justine Havelu. I am a senior at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm majoring in music industry studies, and I'm also minoring in performance, and I'm going to get a minor in marketing management also. And when I graduate, I hope to either be a marketing director at a radio station or maybe working in the marketing department at a label.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And finally, let's talk to Tristan.
Hello, my name is Tristan Swihart, and I'm a senior at Eastman. My major is percussion performance, but I'm also a candidate for the arts leadership certificate at Eastman. The reason why I really like pursuing music is I like the diversity of what people do in their careers. There's never just one thing that any one musician does, and that's really exciting for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I invite our graduated students to have their cameras on, and current students, you may keep yours on as well. And so we're going to check in here with Andre, Sarah, and Dejan. So let's start with Andre. If you could talk a little bit about where you are, where you studied, and what you're currently doing.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here today. I'm Andre Brousseau, and I graduated from Indiana State University back in 2013 with a degree in music business. I wanted to study music because I came from a very musical family. My mother was a music therapist, and that had a huge impact on my life growing up. And because my music classes were really the highlight of my day throughout school. It was always something I looked forward to. It was always kind of where I built my community in school, and I just really enjoyed music, so I wanted to pursue that in my career. Nowadays, I work on the membership team here at NAMM and work primarily on member programs and communications. So yeah, just kind of, really living that musical dream every day. I'm not performing every day, but it's definitely a major part of my life.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's hear from Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Sarah Forestieri, and I did my Bachelor of Music in Voice Performance at the University of Toronto Faculty of Music. I graduated there in 2017. And then I went on to do my Master of Music in Voice Performance and Literature at the Eastman School of Music, as well as the Certificate in Arts Leadership there as well, graduated in 2019. And I chose to go into music because I was just always singing as a little girl, and I have always been singing. And for me at the time, when I was in undergrad and even in my master's, I just wanted to be on stage. And it was through my undergraduate studies and through my master's degree where I started taking on different opportunities and learning about all the opportunities in having a hybrid career, that you can perform also, but also be a huge part in making opera or whatever type of music you're working on accessible to younger audiences and telling stories through music. So today I do a lot of that. I still do some performing, but my full-time job is with the Canadian Opera Company in Toronto as the manager of community programs and partnerships. And I also have a small voice studio as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I'm excited to hear more about that later. And let's finish up with Dejan. Let us know about you.
Hi, y'all. Thanks for having me today. Very honored to be on here. So yes, my name is Dejan, and I'm coming to you from San Francisco. I graduated in the summer of 19 in a degree in music leadership from the Eastman School of Music, and really happy to see a bunch of Eastman people here. Why music? Well, I guess on a broad term, it was the only thing I was really decently good at and that I could keep up with for the long haul. Growing up, I had lots of health problems that still continue today. And, I love stuff like skateboarding, soccer, etc. But I couldn't realistically continue that for the long haul. And so really, just growing up and even through today, I just use music as my weapon to combat all my feelings or take other people's feelings and try to use that to help myself and societal issues. As far as career trajectory, I recently, as of this week, just switched roles, but before this week, I worked at an arts organization known as SF Jazz in their development department as a major gifts research employee. But currently, I work as a digital music publishing research contractor for a major tech company. Unfortunately, I can't say their name, but they'll be released soon. Thank you.
Excellent. So it really sounds like we have such a wonderful breadth of experiences and careers represented here. So I'm excited to hear from all of you. And so we're going to get into this discussion. So we're first going to start with our graduated students. So I want you to kind of put yourself back in the mind frame. You're in your last year of college. You're gearing up, ready to take on the professional world. And so what I would love to hear about were your steps getting to your first professional job. How did your professors support you getting there? What obstacles did you encounter on the way? And how did faculty support you in achieving your first position? So let's first start with Andre. Talk a little bit about getting into the professional world and what it took to get you there.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So, my career goals were really constantly supported by my music professors in school. They always took an interest in what I was doing with my extracurriculars, always trying to, get me to join new ensembles and everything, and really just be involved. And I think the biggest takeaway from me during my time was just to be involved and stay involved in school. And that has really, helped me carry on that sort of mentality in my professional career. Another thing, my music business professor, Dr. Ted Paczynski at Indiana State, always brings a cohort to the NAMM show each year. And so, I was able to attend the NAMM show as a student, and that really opened up my whole world. I'm from a small farming community in Indiana, and I never thought that I would be a part of the wider world. I never thought that I would move away from Indiana. And so my time in university really allowed me to become more exposed to just diverse cultures, diverse people, and diverse places. So, really coming to the NAMM show out in California helped me do all of that and get to where I am today. So, as far as first steps, like I said, getting involved, staying involved. I'm actually a pretty shy person, even though I'm, sitting here on this panel now. But, the more I, was able to meet more people, get in touch with my peers, become more motivated by them, the more I kind of felt that same role. I want to go meet people. I want to motivate my friends so that they can become their best selves. So, really doing that, being more enthusiastic about what I'm doing in my career has all been a part of what I've carried forward from school.
That's excellent. Yeah, it's wonderful how our professors and people around us can really push us to do things that we never even considered. That's how I ended up here myself. So really relatable story there. How about Sarah?
Yeah, so both as an undergraduate and a master's student, I really went into both of my degrees thinking that the performance main stage artist path was all that I wanted, and really it was just because it was all that I knew, especially as an undergrad. For classical voice, that track is usually undergrad, master's, and then you do a young artist program with an opera company, which will hopefully launch your career. But I had no idea about how many diverse careers exist in our industry, and even specifically to opera. But I did know that I like to be busy and I like to be involved in clubs and extracurriculars and to just try as many new things as I could. This led to me taking on a position as the voice department assistant in undergrad. I was an assistant in the arts leadership program as a master's student at Eastman. I was, being president of the Graduate Student Association, and I took part in all these extra things. And I learned how much I really enjoyed this type of work in arts leadership. So for me, some of the challenges that I faced was a bit of an identity crisis, throughout my studies of exactly where I wanted my career to go. Because on the one hand, you spend all these years of training and honing your craft to be a main stage artist. And there's, a stigma that if you don't follow the path, it's because you can't, or you're not good enough. And I struggled with that and whether or not, I could still call myself an artist if I went, the leadership administration route. And conversely, I think there's a bit of a stigma that students who are interested in these other opportunities also deal with. There's a fear that you might be seen as less serious about developing your craft. And I've talked to a lot of students who don't take on these opportunities for fear that they won't be cast in a role or have as many performance opportunities. So for me, and to answer the question, I'm so grateful that in both my undergrad and in my master's, I had professors and coaches who supported me in doing all of these things while still, taking on the performance opportunities, taking on all these extra opportunities and letting me explore all those other skills and passions. And I think that's what led me to finding the job that I love, where I get to work with artists, I work with communities, and making the art form as accessible to as many people as possible. So that was huge for me, and I'm really grateful to all the people who let me dabble in all sorts of things.
That's beautifully stated. I love how you could validate, all of the wonderfully valid options in our art form that you can contribute back, that you can still be a huge part of what makes music special to everybody. So really, really awesome point you just made. Thank you so much. And then Dejan, how about with you?
Sure. Yeah, my experience was somewhat similar to Sarah's actually. Growing up and attending Eastman, I really thought the only routes for a career were performance or maybe education. And to be frank, before I entered the music leadership program, I was a jazz studies major at Eastman. And, there I loved the music and I loved the faculty and the student body, but I always questioned them a lot, not just musically, because that goes without saying, it's great. But I also question about how all this studying actually relates to current societal events, or even more so how music actually fits in society outside of the ivory tower in terms of discovery, consumption, or adding value to people's lives. And there, to be honest, I didn't get a lot of support. Some professors were against my thoughts and said I'd be better off just doing the shedding, the transcribing, trying to win various music awards all day, or some simply just didn't get where I was coming from. So I really had to just kind of find my own way. And thankfully, my first steps for doing that was taking classes in the Institute of Music Leadership. I was accepted in the arts leadership program at Eastman, and this is where I found out about things about what a grant was, or different types of businesses or ensembles that are really taking unique pathways and carving out their own career. I was also fortunate enough to have a lot of support from Professor Jim Dozer, who heads that department. And, just my mindset was I want to experience as much as I can. So I took on internships ranging from arts admin for unique organizations such as the Gateways Music Festival to taking on an internship in the Bay Area where I learned about the music industry, particularly digital music publishing. Yeah, and from there, eventually, Professor Dozer told me about the new degree program known as Music Leadership. And I'm sure you'll hear about that a little bit later from a professor. And I decided to transfer into that program. And it was very intense, but it helped me realize my purpose in this music world at the time and for my future. So yeah, that's my little short spiel on how my trajectory came about and how my goals were supported.
That's awesome. And it sounds like I'm hearing a common theme of really pushing yourself to listen to your authentic voice and kind of drowning out some of the more negative thoughts, negative opinions that could invade your thought space and your creative space. So I'm actually going to take that and turn it over to our current students. So current students, it's very possible that you have been exposed to some more negative opinions about what it means to pursue a career in the arts or a career in music. And so, you know, where are you with that currently? Are you finding that those voices are present in your life? And if so, like, how are you overcoming them? So let's start with Ada Elizabeth. What's your relationship with some of these more negative opinions about pursuing a career in music?
Okay, so this has been like a kind of reoccurring like thing for me. First there was like the generic like opinion of, well, a music career is not like a stable career. You're always going to be from one job to the next, basically. But for me, the deeper like conflict was when you get to where you want to be. There's like the feeling of imposter syndrome a little bit, which is not other people, it's more like you. It's like you feel like, oh, I'm not enough for this opportunity, or this is like not where I belong, or why am I doing this? Kind of what some people have already spoken about. So I feel like that for me is the most like challenging, I guess. So the way I'm kind of combating that is being secure in what I have to offer, and basically like just looking back at all the things that I've done and kind of where I've come from. Because if you saw me like 3 years ago, you'd be like, wow, I would never think she's gonna go and be on a NAMM panel, or she's gonna go to Berkeley. It's just like just knowing what you have to offer and who you are as a musician.
Excellent. It sounds like you've had some supportive voices in your life as well. Cool. So yeah, I know. Let's take a look and let's listen to Angela. How has this played out for you?
Yes, so similar to Ada Elizabeth, a lot of folks have told me the similar things that, that there's limited opportunities in the music industry, and that it's really hard to like navigate through a career. But like I mentioned earlier, I know the power that music has and how it can positively impact people's lives. So throughout my time in college, I just figured out focused on ways I could use music and my experience in like the music industry to inspire people to like achieve their dreams and become whoever they want to be. Because through listening to music growing up, music inspired me to just go forth and be myself unapologetically and be who I want to be. And I've realized that, majoring in music, you gain so many skills that can transfer to other roles as well. Just because you get a degree in music doesn't mean you can't do jobs within the entertainment industry as a whole. For example, I just wrapped up an internship with Walt Disney Television in their corporate social responsibility department, because I wanted to find a way to combine my passion for the entertainment industry and for social impact. And if it's Ada Elizabeth said 3 years ago, if someone told me that I'd be working at Walt Disney Television doing corporate social responsibility, I probably wouldn't have believed them. But just going forth and believing in the arts and in music, and knowing that I wanted to use that for social good and help me get here. So the possibilities are endless. It's just about knowing who you are and just continuing down your path no matter what the naysayers say.
That's beautiful and really inspiring. So, in the same realm of inspiration, so Jane, can you tell us about what's inspiring and propelling you through school that's going to eventually take you to where you want to be?
Absolutely. I'm currently in the same program that Dejan was talking about at Eastman. And I think that has been one of the biggest things for me, especially right now I'm in the program, is to learn through every class that I'm in about a different opportunity in music. We were talking a little bit about how it feels, some of the stigmas going into a performance career or into a performance education setting is that you don't have options, but this program is showing that there are a lot of options and a lot of things to be excited about and quite a lot of opportunities. So I'm very excited through this program to learn what's out there.
Excellent. How about Justine? Same question.
I feel that I have a lot of inspiration coming from, musicians or my professors, but I have come up with some type of mantras, especially from being in college for as long as I have. I say to myself that I focus on my progress and not on my time. I ask questions and I make mistakes. And I also realize that everyone has a beginning. And so those are my key inspirations of being a student and as I progress through my own developmental growth.
Wonderful. We're going to quickly talk to Tristan, and we're going to finish up this portion of the seminar, the webinar. Tristan, for some final thoughts, can you talk a little bit about what resources your professors can give you that are going to help you feel supported and then eventually be successful when you do leave school?
Yeah, so there's two professors that come to mind when I think of that question. My professor, Michael Britt, who I study with, one of his big things is we always, whenever we start something, we're planting the seeds for what we want later on. So we can't just expect the results right away. And it's always a process of growing. And the other professor I think of is Steve Danu. It was a class I took last year called Career Skills for the 21st Century Musician, which is a great class. And he talks about what success means to us individually. So obviously, if someone becomes the next Yo-Yo Ma, yeah, that is successful. But also, there's also other types of success, and we don't have to be full-time performers to be full-time musicians. And I think that really changed the way I thought about how I wanted to pursue my career in music.
Those are beautiful thoughts. And I'm excited to hear from all of our students again very shortly. I'm going to turn it over to Mary to moderate the next portion of our discussion, including our faculty and professors here with us today. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Alex. And boy, that was wonderful to hear from all of you. And I don't know. I think I kind of want to change the whole pattern of the rest of the program. So hang on to your seatbelts. So I'd like to welcome our faculty, Professor Barry Atkins, Dr. Fabiana Klauer, Dr. Mark Phillips, and Rachel Roberts. I think we'll just go around the room quickly, if it's the virtual room, and just ask you to introduce yourselves, give a little bit of a thumbnail on where you are today. Rachel, how about if we start with you, your title and where you're from, and maybe give us a reaction to what you just heard in our student segment, a quick reaction.
The reaction first is just of complete awe. If this is what the future is, I am so inspired, and this is what keeps me wanting to do the best that I can in my role today and in the future. My name is Rachel Roberts. I am the Associate Professor of Music Leadership at Eastman School of Music, where I teach and run the Master of Arts in Music Leadership degree program. And I'll also just say I'm a graduate of Eastman a couple decades ago, and I was one of the first classes that went through the Arts Leadership Certificate program. So very excited to see the influence that that program has had over the years.
Thanks so much. Dr. Mark Phillips, who we have had conversation with before, who's heading up the HBCU Band Directors Consortium. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Mary. And good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those where it is still morning. The session this morning has been wonderful. I too, Alex, I went to University of North Carolina, Greensboro also until moving to the big state of Texas, where I went to University of Oklahoma, graduating in music. I'm at Prairie View A&M University, where I serve as the head of the Department of Music and Theater. And listening to all of the students today has been wonderful, because I have a wide array of students doing different things in music around the country, such as Desiree Washington, who was on The Voice on Monday night, Dr. Lamont Lawhorn, who's a new board member for PASIC, and Philip Smith, who is a trumpeter, and he's playing in one of the military bands on the East Coast. So, and when looking at what graduates are doing, they're not just teaching school, they're going into all various aspects of music. And it's important that we think that way, because so much has changed in the last few months in the country. We have to be real creative to come up with other ways to make sure that musicians are employed, because no one can go to the theaters to see various programming and things now, because the amount of people that can attend is limited, and we have to make sure that what we do stay above water. So to listen to everyone today is just tremendous. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fellows. And Dr. Fabiana Cloud, am I seeing you? There you are. Love to hear from you.
Hello, everyone. Delighted to be here this morning, and I have to echo everyone's comments here regarding how inspiring it's been to hear the stories of all these wonderful students and alumni. It's just been so just gratifying to see what happens when students have positive experiences, when they're willing to embrace different ways of thinking, different ways of conceiving of the music industry and of the possibilities there are around them. So it's just been wonderful. I work at the University of North Texas, where I'm the founder and director of the College of Music, Music Business and Entrepreneurship program. And I also have a coaching program where I work with women musicians from all around the world, helping them create new income and expanding their impact. So it's just been really wonderful. And the students in the program that I created at UNT are also one of the things that I think that has been just the cornerstone of the philosophy of the program, has been to help them not only position themselves for employment opportunities, but actually create their own businesses, launch their nonprofits and for-profits, online storefront type businesses while still in school. So I'm just so excited to hear the stories from today's students, and be able to connect with them and see how we can all continue supporting them, in this industry.
Yes, we're going to go into that in just a little bit, but Barry, I'd love to hear from you. Have you introduced yourself? Barry Atkins.
Thank you. I'm Barry Atkins from Millersville University. We're about 2 hours west of Philadelphia, and I'm head of the music industry program here, where students take courses in music, business, and technology. So they're well-rounded in all three areas, and they choose to specialize in music management, music production, or live audio production. And what I love today is when somebody said about you can be a full-time musician without being a full-time performer. I think a lot of our kids need to hear that. Back when I started, I thought I had to be a music teacher or a performer, so that's why I went into business instead. But then as things, progressed, I realized, how many different careers there are in music. In fact, a careers course I taught a couple of years ago, we listed, I think, over 100 careers in music that weren't actually performance. So it's really encouraging, to know for the next generation how many different jobs they can even create themselves, and how many jobs there are out there still be involved in the music industry.
Yes, and now, thank you. And now this is where I'm going to go off script a little bit, but this is going to be fun. I'm seeing people logged in. Bill Pelto's with us, Taylor Harding, University of South Carolina, Kim Wengler from Appalachian State. I know there's others, Susan Hafner, who's from California College. I know that there's other people. I'm just looking at my first screen. So I'd love you to update in the chat with your responses from faculty as I ask the faculty on the panel. So here's the question that you did not see ahead of time. So your response to when you were in college, right? Let's go back a million years. For me, it's quite a while. For some of you, it's much less than me. But when you go back and look at your formal training, is there kind of any comparison to what we've heard from these 7 students on the panel or 8 students on the panel in terms of their connection to purpose and their drive for purpose and their view of a broader opportunity that they have. So I'm asking you to sort of reflect on your own training versus we know the training that you're providing now and the training you seek and what the students are telling us. I hope this is clear enough for you to answer. Who would like to go first? Dr. Mark Phillips.
Because I was sitting and thinking about that when I was in school, and I was wondering, what am I going to do when I graduate? I knew some of what I would like to do, but I didn't know how to reach the goal. And I spent a lot of time with the chair of my department because I was watching what he was doing, saying, well, how did he manage to educate himself to be sitting in that office to make sure that everything runs as it's supposed to run? So I kind of shadowed him for a bit. And then when I was at the University of Oklahoma, I was the graduate assistant to the director of the School of Music. And that helped me to be the chair that I've been, who knows how many of the years I've been a chair, being chair of music at Virginia State University and at Prairie View A&M University. There's no set guideline to prepare you to do certain things. There are certain traits that you just have to learn that may not come out of the book. There are many things that my undergraduate degree taught me, but it didn't teach me how to be an administrator, how to work with musicians, how to deal with problems, how to guide the future for musicians of tomorrow. And when I listened to the panel this morning, it sounded like they've already got a direction in mind as to where they want to go, what they want to achieve, and how they plan to do it. To me, that's turning the corner because they're not creating. They've already decided these are some things that do not exist, and these are the things that we want to happen with music for the future. I think that's tremendous.
Yes,
it also lets me know that music will be around for a long time.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and we've gotten some wonderful comments. I think Kim Wagner from Appalachian, and yes, I do know how to pronounce that, is that we've redefined success in the field of music. And I think that's really remarkable. Any other faculty members like to reflect on the, Rachel, please, thank you.
I think when I was in school a couple of decades ago now, I had these questions, but it wasn't near as common to ask these questions of your colleagues, of your professors. I feel very fortunate to have gotten directed to the Arts Leadership Program at Eastman, where I was able to explore and have the mentors and instructors who would help me see different career paths in music. I did not go right into a graduate degree either. I went working in orchestras and then transitioned to higher ed and then went back to school. And now it's much more common to define your own success and to create your own path. When I was in school, it felt like an anomaly, especially being under a microscope in a very competitive environment, even though it was very supportive. And coming back to Eastman now a couple decades later, I do see changes in that conversation with the students at large. Yes, definitely in the Institute for Music Leadership and the ALP program, that still provides a tremendous amount of support to students, but I'm seeing this conversation about mission and my own career and what I want to be doing once that purpose, it's on a much broader scale than when I was in school, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, on a much broader scale, right? On a much broader scale. Let's all kind of remember that we're thinking more broadly, which also leads us to more people being involved too at the end, more people being engaged. Check Bill Pelto's comment in the chat. Bill, you're really not that old, but and still very youthful in mind and spirit. And I think I've just lost a few of you. Hope I'm still here with you. And Fabiana, did you have a comment you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say this, my experience, especially towards the end of my studies when I was pursuing my doctorate degree at the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami, they have a very strong, one of the earliest music business programs. And I was fortunate enough to just find my way through that program, and I embraced all of these studies as my related field, like my cognate studies, so my secondary area of specialty other than piano performance. And it was actually at the end of that whole process that I discovered how many more options are available and how we could actually expand the notion of what it means to have a career in music. And thanks to the guidance of my mentors at the time, Ray Sanchez was my key mentor in the music business area. He was actually a professor who encouraged me to attend NAMM. He told me, you know, if you want to learn about the music industry, you should go to the NAMM show, right? Back in 2010. And that was my first just, you know, wake up call to come to Anaheim and discover everything that was possible. And so, yeah, my experience towards the end of my studies was a very positive one, but one that I almost had to like seek. It wasn't given. I could have easily just stayed on my traditional, you know, piano performance path, perhaps with a cognate in accompanying or theory or music history, which is the more traditional route. But I think it is just also a matter of being willing to be curious and to look for the best resources within the university setting, and you could actually, you know, have wonderful results.
Right. And I was, you know, I was going to start with that question about what are the traditional curriculum and requirements, but we'll all, in terms of how we still need the baseline of that learning in our college music schools. You've gone to college to learn excellence and to move forward, but I think the path is wider now. The options are wider. Barry, let's help us conclude this part, and then we're going to go to Stump the Professor. So watch out,
Sure.
Barry.
I think, like, you know, when I went through school, you figured you took all your courses, but when you graduate, then you're going to go right for the job. And, you know, too many, even if I could look back at myself and talk to that, you know, person few decades ago, I would say to them, look, I mean, going to classes is only the beginning. Some of my students want to know how they can get through the program in 3 years. And I said, you know what, that's not the goal. The goal is to get those experience outside the classroom while you're still in school, to get that on your resume. We have a student who took his time, I guess it was 4.5 years through school, but every summer worked in live audio and got tons of experience, and ended up the day or two after he graduated, he got on the Ariana Grande and international tour, you know, because he had that experience on his resume. He didn't like rush through. He took his time, had a lot of things outside of the classroom that really prepared him. So that's the advice I would give to students today, is take advantage of things outside the classroom. It's just not the classes that are going to get you the job. It's everything else that you can apply to put on your resume.
And that includes the NAMM Gen Next program, which we're going to be virtual this year, our President Innovation Award program, which is a leadership program, and that's open by application, all available on NAMM.org, NAMMFoundation.org website. You know, this is it's about exploration and about connection. So now we're going to jump to the Stump the Professor. So we're going to go back to our student panel, and I guess I'll call on you and ask if you would like to pose a question to the mighty professors and deans that are here. Tristan, could we start with you? Could we start with your question?
Yeah, so first I just want to say this has been awesome to sit in here. Everyone talk has been really awesome. So my question is, there's still a large percentage of music students who want those, you know, orchestra positions, those teaching professorship positions. And since most of those positions aren't filled by people who just graduated from college, how are you preparing your students to be successful in between the time from when they graduate and from when they get that big gig?
And why don't we have maybe two of you offer an answer, because we want to get to as many questions as possible. Fabiana, I see you unmuted. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that earlier today, which is the fact that absolutely, you're absolutely right. I mean, the path for students who are in a program in music is not a straight one, and the expectation that they're just going to graduate and be employed and have everything right off the bat is not a realistic one. So in my institution, what I've focused on creating is paths to foster entrepreneurial education, entrepreneurial experiences, helping students start their own businesses while in school. That was my personal experience. I started my business when I was doing my doctorate degree at the University of Miami. And so I really focused on enabling the different opportunities I created in music entrepreneurship competition at our university, which gives students cash awards for them to launch their businesses, to come up with proposals, to create a business plan. We've had several dozens of businesses launched at our program. So the focus has actually been very much centered around self-initiative and helping musicians just know how to start a business and not think that they have to wait till they're done with their studies to gain employment. And they actually end up collaborating, they end up fundraising, they end up even creating employment opportunities for other students. We've had students who launched a business, and then many of the other students in the program end up working for that entrepreneur or student. So yeah, I'm just going to share in the chat here a link to the page where we have like our UNT Music Entrepreneurs Showcase, so you can all check it out. And these are all students who have launched their businesses while in school. So that's been the focus of the program, actually.
So it's almost in the School of Music then, from the day of entry to the School of Music, there's the orientation is like, yes, it's not 4 years plus symphony job. The orientation is, it's a journey, it's an exploration, there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to see, here's some pathways, let's go keep looking, let's keep exploring. So year 5, year 6, year 7, that student may say, symphony was one option, it's not the only option.
Right, absolutely. And it actually makes them more employable later on. It's interesting. We've had students who launched, I had a student who, her name is Dr. Jen Guzman now, she's a doctor, and she and her husband launched a storefront business for instrument repair and accessories right here in the square in Denton. And then as she finished her degree, her entrepreneurial track record and all the things that she built, she was also she created a nonprofit for a concert series, and so she actually became the director of education for the Dallas Symphony Orchestra when she finished her doctoral program, because she was just more attractive as a candidate. But it wasn't that she was focused on getting that job necessarily while she was in school. Our goal was always to get her to just launch businesses. Let's see how you can start your own thing, and then that actually made her more attractive for a position. So now she has both.
Which is both a mindset and a skill, right? It's a mindset and a skill. That's wonderful. Justine, can we ask you to ask a question of our professors?
Yes, I actually have more of a specific question. This is for Sarah, but of course anyone is welcome to answer. When I read your synopsis, I saw that you said, quote, "You want to redefine success." How would you say redefining success would apply to a woman in a leadership role?
And who would like to answer that from our panel? How would you define success for a woman entering or pursuing a leadership role? Rachel?
Yeah, my gut reaction to that question is that every individual has their own right to define their own success, what their goals are, what they're looking for. And that kind of ties into the mindset that we hope we can educate our students with and the Institute for Music Leadership. It's this mindset of entrepreneurship. So even if you don't create something new, how can you approach your work with that mindset and that framework of filling a need that doesn't exist and creating that value, feeling as if that contribution is there. When you have the lens of a woman in particular, I don't know that I would change my approach to advising any student other than saying, it's up to you to define your own success. I think each of us experience different barriers one way or another. There's more of a movement in society right now, in our culture, to find equity, whether it's with race, whether it's with gender, whether it's with pay equity, whatever those things are. And that's something that we all need to own and be aware of. The one thing that I have seen a lot of change of is people speaking up if they do see inequities or other things happening that are not right, having the courage to speak up. And again, that goes to any person, any gender. So I don't know that defining your own success and figuring that career path out would be different from one person to another, but instead changing your own belief that the value that you see and the contribution that you can make is valid, and being able to have the courage to stand up for that.
You know, there's been a theme here. Thank you, Rachel. There's been a very important theme here about authenticity. And the other theme is support, right? I think we go to school because we believe and we have a right to expect that there is support there. And then these programs guide us in a certain in our goals. Wonderful. Can we jump to Angela? We'd love to have your question for the professors. Ready to stump the professor, Angela?
I'm ready. So my question is that right now I'm gaining experience in the entertainment industry, but I would love to pursue like higher education and obtain a master's. What advice do you have for students who are conflicted between getting like an MBA and like a master's degree in like business, like music leadership or music management?
May I?
Sure, please.
Well, what I consider and tell students is there are certain job aspects of what you may want to create in the evening when you're free from your real job that pay the bills. So if you can tailor what you want to do as a classroom teacher or an administrator, and then when your workday is over, if you have your business or performance that you want to do, you would be able to do both of those and keep yourself totally happy and keep yourself financially in a good position as well. Because of how things are now, many musicians, even though they may be teaching in the day, they may be an orchestra performer in the evening, they may perform with other groups, they may go in to do some recording. The sky's the limit. Just don't box yourself into one something. What I did when I was in college, I played in the symphony, so when getting out of college, I knew that that was going to be a possibility. And once I moved to another location, because I had orchestral experience, then that allowed me to be in the next orchestra that I played in. But if I didn't have certain skills that were or opportunities that were given to me, then I may not have been able to take the route that I took. I did a workshop at Lamar University, and some of the students were asking, well, we're interested in administration, but we don't know how to go about getting into that aspect of it. And I told them, well, you're right here at this one workshop. That's the beginning. Ask whatever questions you'd like to ask, and we'll help you to tell you some of what is required, some of what you may be doing. Because sometimes we assume that the little things are not the important things, but those are the things that will come back to your mind later and say, I can put this to use because I remember when I learned this, but I couldn't use it then, but it will be that particular something you would need for an opportunity later in life. So never forget what you do or whom you may come across, because it will have some bearing on what your future will hold.
Thank you, Mark. And Barry, you made a comment in the chat. You just kind of pretty much straight ahead said an MBA is never going to hurt, right?
Yeah, it's never going to hurt and gives you a lot of options. Many of my students have gone that route. It's really helped them, whether they stayed in the music industry or gone elsewhere. They were a lot more marketable.
Yeah, I think that's that's the kind of information we're seeking here. Jane, love to hear your stump the professor question.
For sure. My question is more about curriculum building. When building your curriculum for students, do you have sole responsibility over what is on that curriculum, or is it subject to review? Is there accountability to make sure it's accessible to students with different learning styles, as well as including dialogue and materials about equity, diversity, and inclusion?
And who would like to take that question? Barry, would that be good for you? Or Rachel? Rachel and Barry, we'll start with you.
Go ahead, Barry. I've already spoken. It was just silent. You dive in first, and then I'm happy to.
It was such a great question. Could you read it one more time? Just I know there's at least 3 or 4 parts to this.
Yeah, when you're designing a curriculum for your students, do you have sole responsibility or is it up for review from another faculty member? And is there accountability to make sure the curriculum is accessible to students with different learning styles and including materials and dialogue about equity, diversity, and inclusion?
Okay, great question. Yes, actually, it is the sole responsibility to develop curriculum in conjunction with the other professors in music industry. But we also use an advisory board as well. And as you know, music industry changes every day. So to stay relevant, we always consult, even though everybody that teaches at my university, including myself, we are still working actively in the music industry. We also consult other music businesses to make sure that whatever, we are keeping up with all the latest changes of technology. So we are held accountable on that way by our peers who are in the industry full time. As far as different learning styles, it has actually been a challenge this year with online because we have students taking my class that are in 3 different modalities. So some of the students who actually blossom well that are prefer the self-paced, the asynchronous portions, they really like the best. But those students who actually like more of the hands-on, face-to-face, are can come into class as well. So there's different options for our students. So as far as the inclusion diversity thing, we have not really hasn't really been a part of the courses I teach in music engineering. So I'll pass that off to Rachel.
Great. So just quickly, our courses in the Master of Arts in Music Leadership, the topics were all approved by New York State Department of Education. So that was the first level of oversight. And in developing that program, there was consultation with alums and an advisory group to make certain that the curriculum topics were relevant to what we were hoping to achieve in this degree. I say that there is an ongoing review of the curriculum of the syllabi with some other leaders who are out in the field right now. As far as learning styles, I think that's something that we are working on with getting feedback from students, what works, what does not work, especially this year in the online transition. I think there's a lot of new tools that we have access to that we are experimenting with and looking at for how to create the best learning environment online. And to your last point about inclusion and diversity, anti-racism, other social issues, that is something that I can speak for the music leadership faculty. All of us are in our own sharing of experience and resources. And I'm personally taking 2 classes in this as well to find a way that this is integrated in every class that is taught in the music leadership degree. So I expect that to be an ongoing evolution, just as the music industry is an ongoing evolution. So it's our responsibility to make certain that curriculum continues to change, reflective of what's going on in the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. And a Stump the Professor question from Ed Elizabeth. And unmute, there you go.
Okay. Hi, I had a question about music censorship. So I wanted to ask, as music educators and musicians yourself, do you feel that music censorship takes away from a certain group of musicians, or is there any harm behind music censorship?
That's an important question. And Elizabeth, can you give us an example of the music censorship that concerns you, or the question that you'd like to have addressed?
Yeah, so I know in high school, in most of my music classes, we didn't really talk about like pop culture music. It was more like early 2000s or something, or 2010s, or just music that didn't tell like a story almost. It was just like, this is about a topic, like this is about a love song or about a girl or a boy or something. So I just feel like if there were more like exploration into different music genres, like pop culture, because I feel like if you want to produce well-rounded musicians, they should have to hear from everyone's story. So let's say like if anybody wanted to talk about like a Cardi B song or like a Meg Thee Stallion, or just someone who says things that maybe not everyone's comfortable with, but as a musician, I feel like it's like our duty to well-round ourselves, basically.
So that's really helpful. So your term when you say censorship is really meaning that the selections or the music that's studied it's too narrow in a certain way. And we're missing the opportunity to include more voices by the choices that we make for this music that we're studying. And that goes to, how curriculums are built in conservatories of music, how curriculums are managed, how choices are made. And yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. Who would like to jump in and help us with that answer? I think we've hit the stump the professor moment here, because it's
May I?
yes, please, Mark. How do we transform our conservatories and our schools of music where those experiences that the students bring are validated and explored as part of their learning?
Well, as all of us know, the music curriculum is pretty set as to what you need to know theory-wise, history-wise, literature-wise. And there are other ideas and interests that students have. And we try to be able to include that. We have a group called Grammy U, where all of the music majors who are interested in writing can come together and let their colleagues listen to them as they produce whatever music they're working on. And it's not limited. We don't censor them. We just let them show what is the interest that they have. And they get to go on the Grammy U site and see what students at other universities are creating as well. And then we try to have some of those guests around the country when they're in our area to come in and talk with them and give them some expertise as to how they were able to getting into the business and do what they needed to do in order to become famous.
Yeah,
And
great.
the
Great
students
example.
really like it. Yes.
Great example, Mark. Now we've got our 3 graduates, and I know they're dying to stump the professors too, and we're kind of running out of time. So what I'd love you to do, Sarah, Dejan, and Andre, if you would just quickly put a summary of your question in chat so we all could see it. But Andre, I'm going to say hold on that. Andre, you go first and ask your question quickly, and then we'll jump to Sarah's and Dejan because our time is clicking. Andre, quick.
Thanks so much, Mary. Okay, so professors, what is your advice to students on what they can be doing right now, given everything going on in 2020, to be engaged with others in pursuit of their career goals?
Barry, who's someone's brought up to 30, go ahead.
I think working with other people, I think what's happening, with some students, since they were in quarantine, they're kind of like withdrawn into themselves. So I would say collaboration is the way to go. The more people that you can meet internationally and nationally and work on projects together, that's definitely, I think, the way to go.
You have to think of this as being a boundaryless time, right? That we're without bound. Dejan, we see your question, but now go ahead and ask it.
Sure. I mean, it's somewhat answered already, but as you know, COVID has affected the way we all consume and learn about music. Even past this pandemic, how do you see your role or like curriculum changing for the long term, given this like game-changing era? Yeah.
In other words, are we changed forever because of this? And how will that change manifest? Fabiana, you're at a big Texas university. What do you think?
Yes, I am happy to chime in. And I think, with all the challenges that we've faced and during these past few months, there have been some incredible opportunities for breakthroughs and innovation in the music industry and in the traditional models for music education specifically. And the opportunities for musicians to now create their own studios online and find models that are scalable, where they can now connect multiple students in a single room, have group teaching combining with private one-on-one, offer programs that are based more on package experiences versus just lesson by lesson. All of these things are now amplified because of the situation where everything is virtual. A year ago, if students wanted to change their studio to an online setting and expand the notion of having only in-person lessons versus online, it would have been a harder sell for parents and for teachers. Even though these models existed already, it was almost like not welcomed, right? And now everyone has accepted virtual learning as the norm, right? It's our new reality. So the opportunities for musicians to create different models of teaching, not only to replicate what they were doing in person and try to do them virtually, but actually to reinvent their models where they can create programs that are not necessarily exchanging time for money, but more about creating packages, creating communities where they can teach in groups, where students can combine and connect from all over the world. It just creates so many more opportunities for collaboration, for a sense of community, and for scalable models for music teachers to not have to be depending only on what they can physically do and where they can physically be. So I think it's opened up a lot of possibilities for music educators in the world.
So thank you. And Sarah, I'd love to have your question. How do we combine this with the serious music training that happens in the studio and also those meticulous rehearsals where musicians go to express their craft?
Yeah, my question was just about how do you talk about students redefining that success and where do you address it and how do you address it, whether it's in the studio or in the private studio or in the rehearsal room? Yeah.
And who would like to take that?
May I take a stab at it?
Sure, Mark, sure.
Oh, one of the things that we do, we take our students to the recording studio in Houston, and they get to look and see which persons have been there recording, and they realize that when you come in, you've got to be polished because you're paying for the time. The more retakes you do of everything you do, the more money you're spending. But if you can come in and be polished and know your music when you get there and record in one take, it gives you opportunity to listen and perhaps make some changes to correct and create and make whatever you were doing better than what it was when coming. But if you're not prepared and you begin to waste time saying, I don't think I'm definite on what I'm going to do, then that is money down the drain. And we know as musicians, we don't have any money to put down the drain because we're musicians and we're struggling and we're trying to make sure that we can pay our bills. So we come in and we're as polished as need be. And I think the day before we were in the studio, Yolanda Adams was in the studio. So it gave the students a lot to just look at and say, we're in the same room that she was in yesterday. So I felt that that was a great learning experience for all the students that attended.
That's, in other words, there's no substitute for the excellence of your craft, right?
Yes,
There's no substitute for it. And I think that if there's a fear in building the conservatory curriculum, when we say we want to have more popular music or we want to have more music of our time and music of our students' time, that somehow we're substituting the reality of our commitment to excellence in performance and excellence in our craft. And I think that worry needs to be kind of put to rest, knowing that there's no sacrifice for the excellence and that our students are seeking that. Barry, you had a thought.
Yeah, just a quick thing to piggyback up on Mark is that now there's some incredible ways to practice with your ensemble before going into the studio. A program such as Jam Kazam our students have used, so you can actually play an ensemble and do rehearsals virtually, so you're more prepared when you do go into the studio.
Yeah, thanks. Well, we're really going over time, which I'm so grateful you could all stay with us. Andres put an important note. NAMM has a career center, jobs.namm.org. I know that there are internships that are posted there. I think that we've heard today that someone who decides to go into music is a very busy, multitasking person. And all these resources are available to you. We hope you really pursue. We hope you also really pursue the NAMM President's Innovation Award, which is a leadership training track, 2 sessions, one in November and one in January. And I would like to have a special thanks to Alex for his great moderating. Thank you so very much, Alex. You were a superstar. I might have to put you in more often because every now and then I get a little tired of my very own broadcast personality. So it's really great to have you in that role. To our wonderful faculty, thank you so much, Fabiana, Barry, Mark, and Rachel. What inspiration and important words you've shared. And to our fantastic students, boy, do I have hope for the future. Your thoughtfulness, your dedication to the career of music And we thank you so much. So what's ahead for NAMM? We have coming up this month, the Music and Wellness webinar coming up next week. We hope you can join us for that. But it's really important. We want you to be aware of what's coming. We're going to start the new year, 2021. Who's ready to let 2020 go? We're ready. We're going to start the new year, 2021, with the Believe in Music Week, the week of January 18, a very important Gen Next program that will combine being developed in collaboration with College Music Society. There'll be artists, there'll be demonstrations, there'll be ways for you to interact across an online platform. Won't be the same as being in Anaheim together, but that'll happen in 2022 if all goes well. So we'd like to leave you, if you can stay around with us for about 90 minutes. We have a little animation that we're sharing with the world.
90 seconds, Mary.
90 seconds.
Not 90 minutes.
Did I say 90 minutes? Well, there you go. That is because a lot of our students that normally would start music in school are starting music from home or in their other settings. And this is a way to get a word to them that it's always the right time to learn to play an instrument. And after that, you can thank you for being with us. Leave if you need to, but we'd love to share this with you. Thanks.
My name is Julie, and I have been playing an instrument for 3 years now. I love being a musician. I'm always learning something new about music, people, and myself. Music isn't just dots on a page. It's alive, and by playing music, I accomplish something every day. I love the people who've helped me. My instructor is awesome. She teaches me and my friends. I'm glad she was there to help me keep playing, because at first, I didn't like practicing. I'm happy I did though, because learning to play makes me feel like I can do anything. But the best part is it's fun. It makes me feel better when I am sad, angry, or even bored. I can play alone or with others, in my room, outside, or in class. I can even play with people over the computer wherever they are. When we're singing and playing together or learning from our teacher, there's something else happening too. It's like our worlds are connected. I have made a lot of friends that I wouldn't have without music. It's helped me learn something about myself, something I get to share with people the rest of my life. Making music is fun, and honestly, making music makes me, me. So don't wait. It's always the right time to learn an instrument.
Making music makes me, me, right? Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.